This is Michael Cohen. I'm Dallas elder law and estate planning attorney. I'm joined here by my good friend Don Crawford Jr., is who I've always joined on his radio show for many, many years. And so now he's returning the favor and being on my podcast. So hopefully y'all will enjoy this. This is on estate planning or elder law topics. A lot of times it's about celebrities, and today is no exception. This one is on, well, I don't know, many of y'all may not remember Barney's. Barney's was a clothing store. Clothing was a chain. It was really a big chain for a long time. What happened was there was actually Barney Pressman was a New York person who had a clothing store probably 100 years ago. After he died, or maybe even during his life, his son took over. His son that was named Fred, and he built this into this luxury chain of clothing stores. There was one in North Park here in Dallas, for those who were in Dallas who remember. And he was a giant in the retail clothing industry. He was quite a legend, in fact. He built up Barney's to be all over the country. Um, anyway, but after he died, he had four children. One was Bob. He had two sons and two daughters. All went to work for Barney's, very big company. Um, and Bob took over at that time, although all four still continued to work. But this was a dysfunctional family. And in fact, the daughters end up suing Bob. The business didn't go the way that it did for Fred. In fact, it went downhill. Uh, and the daughters, Bob's siblings, his sisters, sued him for $30 million, taking funds from the company. And then and they actually settled for 11 million. After he said when the business went bad, that it was all his brother's fault, even though he ran the business.
Sure.
Well, the problem was, so then it was not something that was very desirable amongst the family members. Um, the surviving spouse of Fred, who was Bob's mom and all four children's mom, and had became, had a wealthy, she had a large estate. Um, Barney's was sold in the late 90s. Well, maybe it was somewhere in the late 90s, maybe early 2000s for $937 million. It's a lot of money.
Wow.
Um, but the family was not a happy family. Um, when Fred died, his surviving spouse um, got remarried and moved to Florida. But she still had her home in Southampton, New York, which is worth about $38 million.
Wow.
She moved to Florida, I think it was in West Palm Beach, Florida, where she had another home in Florida, where she lived with the second spouse until he died. The home in Southampton was put into a limited liability company. After her second husband died, she moved back to uh, New York, although she would go back, I guess she would go back and forth, but she spent a good portion of her time at the large Southampton estate, which is on the beach in the Hamptons.
Okay.
So it was obviously a very nice place.
Mhm.
Well, Phyllis, which was Fred's wife, the surviving spouse, said in her will she excluded Bob for reasons known to Bob. So Bob, the one who ran the business, sued by his sisters, his children, blamed everybody else for the failure of the business. Uh, she wrote in her will, for reasons known to Bob and all, you're not included.
Mhm. Yeah.
So Bob,
Yep.
being Bob, decided to come up with a creative way to make things miserable for his dysfunctional family. What did he do? Well, and what was the purpose? Okay, so let me say what happened too. Before she died, um, mom, when she was on hospice, they moved her back to the Florida home. And she died 3 to 4 months after she moved back to the Florida home. Instead of contesting the will, Bob had a very creative attorney who did this. What he used is the New York whistleblower statute to say that they were trying to defraud the state of New York for estate and income taxes that were not paid by his mom, Phyllis, for who knows how long.
Oh my.
Yep. And under the whistleblower statute, you could get 30% of what they collect.
Wow.
She had $100 million estate. Okay. Now, why would this be important? Well, what was the claim? Well, where you live makes a difference on if there's a tax or not.
Okay.
Florida, like Texas, has no estate tax,
Didn't think so.
no income tax.
Right.
But in New York,
Yeah.
you get taxed.
What you do.
You get taxed. And so if they're saying, well, the proper jurisdiction where she really lived was New York. So New
Boy,
York should collect the funds. And as a whistleblower, I should get a percentage of the estate that New York is doing.
very creative.
Very creative. So then what's going to happen? Well, they're going to have to look at a bunch of stuff. Well, how long of the year did she live in Florida? And how long did she live in New York? Was it more than 6 months a year?
Right.
Bob's saying, well, I had two helpers. She had two helpers. She had her drugs taken care of in New York. So she really Southampton. But if it was put in an LLC, it probably wasn't a homestead. She probably declared it. Where does she vote? Where does she have a driver's license? Where's the driver's license? Is there some sort of declaration of domicile that you have to have in Florida?
Well,
Well, all these things will be determined by the court. But you gotta, you think about it, there's these high tax states that people probably would want to be in the lower tax states.
mhm.
I remember once I went up to Vancouver, Washington, or Portland, Oregon, across the river. People live for one spot across the river to pay less taxes in Washington than they do in Oregon.
Very funny.
And then they come to buy their goods or something in Oregon, and but they pay less taxes in Florida. I mean
Gotcha.
in Oregon. Yeah. So here they're saying jurisdiction. Where's the jurisdiction depends on who gets taxed. So to get revenge, we'll use the whistleblower statute. So
I think the revenge is stress, anger. Um, I know attorneys use the phrase paper them to death. They just make them work and keep the meter running so then all the money goes to the attorneys and they send all these documents that you have to look through and the documents are this high and it just sounds like this guy is very angry and he's going to make them pay.
it's kind of like a divorce. Sometimes, people run on emotions as opposed to other things. Of course, this is money generated too, as well. But when it comes to emotions, people just keep paying and paying, and quite frankly, I hate to say it, the ones who benefit may be the attorneys that
Yeah,
that are involved in the litigation. I don't do any litigation, I should say. I'll make a disclaimer. I do no litigation. I'm a nerdy planner. We try to
right,
avoid these type of things.
right.
So, uh, you know, but the reality is that when it comes to emotions, whether it's divorce or we did have one last week where there was a will that we had done where we said equally to the four children, and one of the children thought it was unfair that they got an equal share. I had to go to contest. They had contested the will because of their own greed or control that they wanted. It was emotion and not reality. What kind of crazy thing is that?
I guess if she or he, whoever contested it, argued that, oh, I spent more time or I was a caregiver, I deserve more. Who knows why,
Yeah, well, I mean, I guess that leaves it up to the person who signed the will to
right?
do that, not for the person who's the beneficiary to decide what somebody else wants to do.
Right.
So if you want to do something the way you want to do it, the moral of the story is have a will or trust. Now, in their case, it was a little, they may have had that, but what, were all the I's dotted and T's crossed? Was she there? Did she have the declaration? That's all come out in the lawsuit. So we'll find out what happens. But in the meantime, well, at least in his case, it really won't be the legal fees so much. Maybe if New York's doing a lot of the work, I'm not sure if,
Mhm.
but the idea is it's different way of contesting a will. It's making it miserable by making revenge for those who cut him out or sued him or whatever.
Very true.
Well, moral of the story is try to protect your own things the way you want so that your loved ones get things without delay under the terms and conditions that you desire. We usually talk about these things at the workshops that we do. We do a free workshop every month at least, one at least on estate planning. A lot of times we'll do one on Medicaid too. Our next workshop is October the 4th,
Mhm.
which is a Saturday at 10
Mhm.
o'clock a.m. It's free. If you go to the free workshop, you get a free vision meeting as well. If you're interested in attending this free estate planning essentials workshop, just call 214-720-0102. That's 214-720-0102, or sign up online at dallaselderlawyer.com. Hopefully, if you like these podcasts or YouTube visuals, I hope that you'll push the like sign on so that we'll know that people are watching and listening since we just started doing it. So yeah, that's the thumbs up.
Mhm.
I hope that you'll join us on the workshop, and I hope you enjoyed the YouTube.
Thank you,
Want
Mike.
to know more? We'll be doing more of these types of shows as well.